Welcome back to the Shaq and Sack Reading Circle, sponsored by Target. Come and join the arts and crafts this July 16th through the 18th. It's going to be a great time. We got water, we got food. It's going to be a great time. We first left off in the canopy forests of Brandonville, where Brandon was moping along, deciding whether life was worth it anymore, when suddenly he found out that his reservation for his Brandonberry pie at Mike Berry's Brandonberry station in Brandonville had just expired. He needed to get down to the bakery as soon as possible to retrieve the pie before it had gone awry.
A variety of challenges would stand on his way as he looked at his map, which he had on his watch, on his table. There was the caves of Cheryl, and then there was the forest of Kelly, and the goblin city of Brandon Draculon. Brandon Draculon. Urkel. And Urkel.
Urkelville was a particularly annoying place, found mostly in the 1990s in the Awful Family sitcom. Back to the show. Brandon was marching along, minding his own beeswax.
And now a word from our sponsors, Target.
Come enjoy the arts and crafts this July 18th. This is going to be a fun time. Come on. Back to the show. Brandon was marching along, minding his own beeswax, when suddenly the Urkel monster came out from behind the troll wizard. Fuck you. It's my story. We're going to do it my way. Urkelville. As he entered Urkelville, and the Urkel monster jumped out from behind the troll maggots, the Urkel monster shouted 3 words.
I want sex.
Brandon was shocked by such a statement, as nobody in Brandonville was ever so blunt with their desires.
Yes, so Brandon clearly responded by saying,
I like dick.
To which the Urkel monster had to reply, well then, I guess we have to go our separate ways. For everyone in Urkelville was born without a cock. Instead, they were born with Brock.
Brock from Pokemon, the first gym leader. Everyone had a Brock, but no cock. Leaving the scene of the battle victoriously, having beaten the Urkel monster with his superior wits, he continued to march on towards his destination, Kelly's Forest of Bakery Goods, founded by Mike Berry Bits.
Next in his path would stand Cheryl's Caves. And Cheryl's Caves were filled with stalactites and stalagmites and the boot pipes and imbo bape zibump and zimbo balapite and dot dots.
But what was inside the cave was the most terrifying thing of all. It was a Zimbabwe folk singer named Zimbo the Beastcock.
After he faced Zimbo the Beast, well, first we should say how he faces him, shouldn't we?
I suppose so. That's important.
Alright, so Zimbo is playing his music in the caves one day with his harmonica and his knife and his box of Altoids and
his camera
that was out of batteries. And so Zimbo was singing all about his
but Brandon was quick with his video editing software as he distorted his voice.
No, I don't want to show it is.
Brandon, fuck you for ruining the flow of the story, but I'll get back to it. I apologize for my co-host, Shaq. He's been stressed out lately with the beep boops and the back to the story. Brandon was quick with his video editing software as he took Zimbo's voice and edited it and distorted it to something he could never even recognize. Zimbo shrieked in terror.
As Zimbo turned inside out, Brandon ran away on his ski boots.
I am out of here, said the Brandon.
Brandon was through with Zimbo, but the caves lurked on. After he was through with Zimbo, Brandon had to come to the dreaded house of Jablomi!
Jablomi was a particularly disgusting and hideous man who had one thing to say about every two things. For every two socks he had a bad comment to say about one of them.
So, after coming back from his hiatus in the caves, Brendon would go to Jablomi's house, where he had to find some way to get past Jablomi without having his conscience really hurt by Jablomi's terrible insults. Because if there was only one thing to insult, you knew that Jablomi would insult it. You needed a second thing, and then you had to hope that he insulted it.
He had found some dumb little boy in the town before Jablomi's house and offered him a piggyback ride in return for accompanying him to Jablomi's house, with the hope that Jablomi would decide to berate the little boy instead of him.
So, having gone away from the town with the little boy, he went to Jablomi's house, where he decided he would face Jablomi finally. And Jablomi said, "Hey, you! Kobe!"
Jablomi was furious. He had seen two of them. He hated them both equally, but could only choose one. He investigated Brendon's thinning hair and his fat bottom, while at the same time despised the little boy's dripping nose sack.
In the end, Jablomi had but one thing to say, and it wasn't about Brendon.
"Your nose sack smells bad."
That was it. Brendon had done it. Quickly he threw the little boy at Jablomi, upon which Jablomi devoured him quickly and efficiently with salt and pepper. Speaking of salt and pepper, come on down to the Target July 16th through 18th extravaganza, where we'll be having the foods, the arts, everything you need to survive. Come on down, it'll be great. We won't be there.
Enjoy the arts. Target actually wouldn't sponsor for us to have our stand installed at the festival, so I guess it's just another year where the Shaq and Sack show will go unrepresented at Target's Film Festival and Arts and Crafts Center. But on with the story. The story must go on. Brendon had successfully defeated and destroyed Jacoby, Zimbo, and the Urkel machine. He now stood at the foot of the Kelly Bakery, hosted by Mike Barry Burleson.
He took a step inside, but quickly stepped back. There was a landmine made of chocolate on the front step. Oh no!
It turned out the landmine was actually just a piece of doggy doo-doo on somebody's doo-doo rag.
No, it was a landmine.
No, this is my fucking story. Don't you...
No,
shut the hell up, microphone. You piece of shit.
Give me the microphone.
This is my story. Hey,
shut up!
Target doesn't even like you. Target doesn't fucking want you.
Don't do
You're
it.
An awful
no,
sponsor.
You know what? Hey,
you're an awful sponsor.
You see what you did there? You see?
Oh.
Why don't we say that you put it in. Hey, no.
So it was essentially a doggy doo-doo landmine, says the Google machine. Once inside, Brendon had but one task left, possibly the greatest task of them all. He had to lie his way through and claim that he still did have a reservation for the Brendon Berry, Mike Burry, Cheryl cream pie.
"Hello," said the lady at the desk. "I am von Stupovich."
Brendon was stupefied by the bitch's accent. Was she from Norwegia? Or possibly Canadio?
"What is your reservation, sir?"
Even more stupefied, he mumbled the only numbers he could think of.
2 9 9 9 9 9 9 4 9 4 4 9 4.
By some grace of God, these were the numbers reserved for the Urkel monster's pie, which he had gracefully struck and stolen from.
"Here is your pie," said Fran van Olgovich.
The Fraulein then dismissed Brendon, from his store, where Brendon happily marched home with his pie, with the one question left unanswered. What were the intentions of his grandfather and stepmother?
All will be revealed on the next episode of
Shaq and Sack's Reading
Sponsored by Target.